Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Community Connections from our Elixir Kitchen team of the Cancer Rehabilitation and Survivorship Program. Happy holidays, everybody. This is our last class of 2023. So we are excited to ring it out with some really tasty recipes and great nutrition tips. My name is Jeremy Capone. I'm the wellness chef, and joining me, as always, our amazing registered dietitian Daniela Fiorini. Hello, Daniela.
Hi, hi. Happy holidays. I know I'm all decked out in Christmas, but happy Hanukkah. Oh, Hanukkah would be finished. I think it finished on the 15th. Kwanzaa, Happy New Year, whatever holidays you're celebrating. Um, what we're going to talk about today is food, of course. And we know that with the hustle and bustle of the holiday season, there comes a lot of eating and eating and eating. And food is always a large part of any festive gathering, right? But if you have cancer or you're undergoing treatment, this can be a stressful time and possibly a lonely time, just because being around food can be a challenge, or the types of foods you can handle are limited. So you want to spend time with family and friends, and so what we're going to try to do is give you some ideas on recipes that would be good if you had nausea, poor appetite, foods that you can take with you if you're going to visit family, so you can bring your own foods, or if you're a caregiver and you want something to bring to a family member who may be in the hospital for the holidays. As per usual, Jeremy has worked his magic, to create three. I don't know if he had any elves to help him this time, but the three recipes he's created for us are sweet potato soup with garlic chestnut croutons, cinnamon tangerine baked tofu, and a winter mule mocktail. And each recipe can be fine-tuned to meet your individual needs. We'll give you some thoughts on how you can make those adjustments. But without further ado, let's get into the first recipe. So our first recipe is the sweet potato with garlic chestnut croutons. It's an exquisite combination of festive, nutrient-rich ingredients with health protective compounds and benefits. And this soup is a great choice for people who are struggling with a sore mouth or throat, who may have nausea or a poor appetite. And you can add calories to it if your appetite is poor, and we'll show you how to do that. It's also a great way to boost your fluid intake, which can be hard to do when you're experiencing cancer treatment side effects. So off to the festive kitchen. Do you see his lights? With Jeremy.
Thanks, Daniela. Yes, we have a little bit of green lighting going on in the background and a touch of tinsel, trying to make it a little more festive. You look fantastic, right in the holiday spirit there. So, okay, let's jump into the first recipe. So, like Daniela mentioned, we're gonna make a sweet potato soup, definitely utilizing some of the more seasonal ingredients, right? We're thinking of those root vegetables, some of those heartier dishes. And this is nice because it's the soup itself is fairly simple. A lot of busying going on right now, and we don't want to spend a ton of time in the kitchen. So this is a nice quick one, which is great. It also freezes really well, so you can batch up and increase the volume if you want to save some leftovers. So sweet potato. What we're gonna do is make it super easy for prep and just wash the sweet potato. We're using, for this recipe, you can use about 3 medium-sized sweet potatoes. And again, just washed and on a baking tray and into the oven, okay, about 375. And let that roast for like 45 minutes, just until it sort of softens up and caramelizes and some of that excess water evaporates, so that you get this really nice concentration of flavor. But that's really all you have to do for prep. So I don't have to take out my knife. I don't have to add any oil, salt, nothing. Just washed, pan in the oven. If you want to throw a few cloves of garlic on there as well, let those roast at the same time and include those. Beautiful. But otherwise, it's very minimal in terms of your work. So what you get is your roasted sweet potatoes. Look fantastic. It should be a little wrinkly on the outside, and you should get some really nice caramelization. And from here, again, the prep super easy. The skins or the jackets come off super simply like this, and you get this amazing caramelization. Like this here, that's sort of like a little bit of that browning, that is superb flavor. Really, really nice concentrated flavor. And again, in terms of the prep, yes, it took a little bit of time in the oven, which we sort of chalk that up as non-active cooking. Like you can just kind of set it in there, set the timer. You don't have to do much prep beyond that. But what we have is this really, really nice sweet potato. And from here, I'm putting it directly into my blender. So this is going to be a nice sort of creamy, pureed consistency. So all I have to do is take the skins off. If I wanted to include even more fiber, Daniela, we can even include the skins. They are edible, but I guess that's up to you.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Great soluble and insoluble fiber with the sweet potato. So go for it.
Beautiful. So I'm adding 3 medium sweet potato, like I mentioned, and those garlic cloves, really nice, sort of caramelized on the outside. We'll throw those in as well. And then here's where you can punch it up in terms of flavor. I have 2 ingredients right now, right? You can add some ginger, which I'm going to add here, and I should have a grater, a little rasp. So we'll grate about a good tablespoon worth. It all depends on how much ginger you like. You can put other spices, you can put other herbs. This is really a nice way to sort of play around with different flavors. So we're going to add a nice amount of ginger to this. I think ginger plays really well with sweet potato. And then just to kick it up a little more, I'm adding a little curry paste. So this is a yellow curry paste, which will have probably stuff like ginger in it, other spices, maybe some lemongrass. And these are great little pantry items that you can just sort of keep in the fridge. You can even do like a dried version, like a powdered and ground version of a curry powder. Have that in the pantry, and these are great ways where you can sort of punch up the flavor of your dishes with, again, minimal amount of work. So we'll add this. This will have probably a little bit of heat, but you can add a curry paste, milder one, if you do like it, but you don't like the heat. That would work really well. So I'll add about a good, say, 2 teaspoons of. And you can follow the instructions in terms of how, what the ratio would be like. But this is nice because it has some of that lemongrass, that ginger, the garlic in it as well. So it's just going to help to intensify the flavors. And what's nice is, again, just throw it all into the blender and you're good to go. I'll add a small pinch of salt. I don't need too much, and we can adjust for seasoning afterwards. And then add some broth. Now, again, you can keep it super simple. Just add your broth directly in and warm it up afterwards. I had some veg broth here that I decided to just warm in advance. And I'll add about 4 cups. And if I need more, we can adjust afterwards. And then we can go ahead and blend. But just a reminder that when you do blend it, because it is warm, we want to keep the top off. I don't want to trap any steam, otherwise you'll lose all of your soup and paint your ceiling a new shade of orange. And we'll just use a dish towel. Use a clean dish towel. And we'll start it off low. And actually, I'll mute myself at this point. Maybe Daniela, you can jump in with some tips.
Certainly. So great tip, huh? Remember to, if it's a warm liquid, remove that top, use the dishcloth. Something I didn't know, so I probably would have made a mess. So yeah, we're using sweet potatoes in there, and we have ginger. So sweet potatoes, great source of fiber, as I mentioned. And Sweet potatoes are a combination of soluble fiber, and soluble fiber is something that is good for regulating blood sugars. It's also good for lowering cholesterol, it's been found. And then, of course, your insoluble fibers are great for just helping reduce risk of diabetes as well, improve gut health and our friendly gut bacteria that live in our gut. And then the ginger. So ginger, the compound in ginger, it's called gingerol. And gingerol is the active ingredient that has some benefit where it can actually improve stomach upset or nausea. So that's the super ingredient in this dish, where it might be something that is useful if you have nausea. Definitely with the blending of it, it becomes more of a smooth texture, so excellent for sore throat and swallowing difficulties. And I think we're ready, so I'm gonna mute my.
Okay, so this is what we're looking for. Really nice and creamy and pureed. We get a ladle here, so you'll see. And again, it's really just the roasting of the sweet potato that takes a little bit of time. But you have this really super sort of silky, creamy soup, which is like Daniela mentioned, this would be good on its own, especially if you have swallowing difficulties, but we're going to add a little bit of texture to this as well. So to play off of that, and this is optional, obviously, but to play off of the creaminess of the soup, we are going to make some croutons. Now, we could just keep it simple, make a classic crouton, but it is the holiday season, and so we wanted to festive, jazz it up with I guess chestnuts, right? Chestnuts is a little more festive, and we're gonna jazz it up and make some really nice chestnut croutons. So I'm gonna show you a couple ways which we can do this. Now, if you're roasting chestnuts from scratch, you can go that way, or you can use the vat packed chestnuts, which are already cooked. Makes it a lot easier as well. Usually a little bit more economical. So you can definitely go this route too. And there's tons available. And most grocery stores will have these available, which are fantastic. But if you did want to roast your own, a little tip on how to do that. So you can get the chestnuts when you're picking them, like this is the season, obviously. But when you're picking them, give them a little squeeze. They should be nice and firm. You don't want any clicking. If there's clicking, that means that there's sort of gaps between the actual chestnut itself and the skin. That means it's probably old, and it's drying out, and it's not going to be great. Also, make sure that there's no cracks or holes in the chestnut. They should be nice and solid and firm all around, okay? So that's what you're looking for when you're picking the chestnuts. To prep them, give them a good wash. And now, classically, I remember growing up, and either being my uncles or my dad sort of, getting the paring knife out, and you score it with, a little line. So you want to create a little line into it. If you don't feel super comfortable doing that, I find that a little bit safer, even though it might not seem safer, is take a bigger knife like this that has a little bit more weight to it and bring you a little bit closer. See what we're doing here. And what we're doing is I'm going to try to score it across the middle or across the belly of the chestnut. And the key here is to keep your fingers and hands out of the way. Okay, so always remember to do that. It is a round ingredient that's a little bit harder and not super stable, right? So you don't want your fingers anywhere near the blade of your knife. And what we're doing is just kind of with no pressure, just leaning your knife on the middle or across the middle of the chestnut. And with your other hand, just give it sort of a gentle little tap. And it doesn't require much pressure at all. You just want to get a little bit of a line, a crack through it. The chestnut will actually stick to it there, and you'll see a little line across the belly. So that's what you want to do with your chestnuts to prep them. After that, they're ready to roast. My little tip, my little extra tip is what I do is I boil some water, put them in a bowl, and then cover them with boiling water and leave them covered for like 10-15 minutes. What this does is I find that it actually helps the skin after roast, it helps the skins to come off a little bit easier off of the chestnut. And they steam up really nicely, almost inside out, which is great. So that's my little tip. I'll soak them in hot water, drain it, and then roast them in the oven. If you have an open fire, then beautiful, even more festive in line. But otherwise, in the oven, hot oven, 400 degrees for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes until you start to see them crack open like this. So you should start to see them split like that. And then they should peel pretty easily. Most of them here, some of them might take a little bit more work, but because of that soaking, that skin comes off like beautifully. And you have this wonderful, delicious chestnut. These are great, great little snack. I'm going to add them to our pan here to make some really nice crispy croutons. So we've got our chestnuts, whether they're roasted, whether they're vac packed. And in my pan, I'm going to put it on like medium heat, and I'm going to add a little piece of butter. You can just add olive oil if you want. And I'll put a little bit of oil. This just brings that smoke point of the butter down, because otherwise the butter will burn and start to it could smoke if it's like too hot. So the oil sort of helps to bring that down a bit. But I would say maybe like a tablespoon and a half total of that fat. We're gonna let that melt. And as that's melting, we're gonna add some really nice flavors and aromatics. So I'm gonna throw in a bunch of sage, which I think is just like, again, perfect for the holidays, really nice and aromatic and festive. And we're gonna put that right in there. And that's gonna start to get super flavorful. It's gonna crisp up a little bit. You can throw rosemary if you like, you can throw thyme. You'll start to hear some of that cracking a little bit. So I'll put in like 12 leaves. If you have really big ones, you can tear them up. So they're a little bit smaller. So we'll put that in there. I'll take a little bit of garlic as well. I'll have got one clove. If you like it really garlicky, you can add a few. And you can grate this in if you like, or you can slice it thinly, and then that'll crisp up as well. If you do mince it with a grater, just keep an eye on it, because it will start to burn if you leave it for too long. So throw that garlic in there. And you can see what's going on. Starting to smell amazing. So again, I have to do this just to experience what I'm experiencing. So get some of that, make sure the garlic is in there nicely, and then we can take those chestnuts, and I'm just going to start to break them up into kind of smaller chunks and throw them right in the pan. Okay, now this you want to just crisp up a little bit, for like I have it on a medium to medium high heat. Just do it for like 3-4 minutes, just until you start to see a little bit of that caramelization on the garlic and the chestnuts.
While you're doing that, Jeremy, well, how many chestnuts would you add? Curious.
Good question. So I would probably, like, these are good sized chestnuts. I
Mhm.
probably put about maybe a cup worth.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'll be good to sort of top each of the soups. Like if you had like 4 soups or 4 to 6 soups, that would probably be enough.
Okay.
These would be a snack on their own, though, to be honest. Like I would munch on these as is.
Yeah. Yeah. It took me back to my childhood when you talked about roasting them, because that's something that was a tradition in our family. And it would be with the wood stove. My dad was very proud of that wood stove.
I can smell it. I can smell it now.
So if we were looking at just the roasted chestnuts, a 10 kernel serving would provide about 3 grams of protein. So there is a bit of protein in there, 4 grams of fiber. So getting your fiber, we know that's important, and 200 calories. So yeah, so you probably want to limit it if you're concerned about, weight gain. But if your appetite is poor, what a great way to get some nutrition in. And along with the macronutrients and the fiber, you're getting about half of your daily needs of copper and a quarter of your daily needs of vitamin C and B6. So there's a few nutrients in there. And then if we talk about phytonutrients, the nutrients you find in plants, it has some antioxidants. Ellagic acid is one of them, and gallic acid is another, and they're both known to be supportive with heart health and defending against free radical damage. So that's where it gets important for helping us ward against development of cancer cells. So there's some good nutrition in that. And the interesting thing is that this nut is actually lower in fat than many of the other nuts. So those are my kernels of nutrition. I know that was bad. That was bad.
No, it's good.
Kernels of nutrition for the chestnuts.
Very nice, Ella. Thank you. All right, so we're good. Few minutes, just warming them up, just until you get something like this. So you see the chestnuts are getting nice and crispy. The garlic, try to take one out. Still try this at home, but it's getting like almost like a chip, like a garlic chip. So nice and crunchy. And a little bit, that little extra touch is just really going to upgrade this dish, this soup. And we are ready to plate. Get our bowl. I'm gonna take some sweet potato soup, ladle it in. Like I said, like this would be really good just on its own. Really nice and creamy, and I can smell that ginger, I can smell that lemongrass from that curry paste. And we'll take some of those chestnuts and that sage. The sage actually crisps up so nicely as well. A touch on there. And
My mouth is watering just looking at that.
there we go.
That's
yes.
awesome.
So nice. And those little crispy bits on top of the sage and the garlic and the chestnuts. A nice little alternative to your, I guess, traditional croutons. But that textural contrast between that and the creamy soup.
Definitely festive. Yeah.
Very aromatic as well.
So as we were saying, if you have a sore mouth or throat, skip the croutons and enjoy the soup as is. But adding that different texture sometimes is really helpful for people who have taste changes or lacking taste, right? To have that texture change, or even if you have nausea, sometimes having that combination works well. So lovely soup, Jeremy. Can't wait to try that myself.
Fantastic. Wonderful.